Hey everybody, seeing that it's winter and there's not really much work to be done on the farm, we figured we'd release a couple of informational videos about what we do here on the farm and how everything works. And this first one is going to be about our blackberries, because blackberries aren't very hardy, and especially the winter will knock them out. We've lost our crop the last 2 years, 2014, 2015, due to severe winter temperatures. The actual berries, the berries themselves, are produced on the second-year canes called floricanes. So they have to survive the winter. Essentially, you can plant these things. They'll grow the first year, but they won't produce any fruit the first year. Those canes then have to survive one winter into the second year. The wind and the cold temperatures sort of desiccate the cells of the plant and dry them out and then kill the canes, obviously. Now the roots survive underground to put out new canes, but no crop is produced because they're first-year canes every year. In the last 6 years, we've lost 2 crops to cold weather. We still have to care for them in the years with no crops, which is a little annoying, makes us a little grumpy. Now, this year we invested in a new trellis system that lets us fold the canes down to the ground and cover them for the winter. Since it's very, very cold today, negative 5.4 degrees overnight, I thought we could post a montage of pictures on how we hope to get a crop this year. In order to fold down the canes, we have to train and prune the plants in a particular way. It starts in the spring. It's a couple month-long process. It starts in the spring by getting the first couple shoots to grow horizontally, parallel to the ground, not a very natural position for them. So we spend a lot of time in plastic clips getting them trained properly. Here you can see a picture with a row with trellis wires, and here's sort of our first pass at training the canes horizontally, as well as thinning out all the extra shoots. We strap the 3 best shoots up on the wires and then remove all the extras, so essentially we're only getting the best canes growing, and the plants aren't wasting energy, creating essentially competitors. About a week later, the shoots are really pushing along. We have to strap them down about 4 times throughout June and early July. When the shoots reach all the way over the next plant, we tip them, and that triggers a lot of side shoots off the body of the plant, not just the very tip of the cane. We find a lot of interesting creatures out in canes when we're working. This is a bug that we've never really seen before, but we get all sorts of things out here. So by the end of June, at least one of the canes is already long enough to be tipped. Once it's tipped, the plant's energy will be devoted to producing side shoots. It won't keep pushing out that tip now that's been cut off, and instead it focuses on pushing out a lot of side shoots, a lot of side branches off that horizontal cane. So throughout the rest of the summer, we attach all these side shoots from the horizontal canes up to the trellis wires and trim out any new canes to prevent competition and the plants wasting energy. As the canes grow, they're detached from lower wires and reattached to higher wires. This picture is from early August, and if you look closely, you can see up there on the highest wire on the left-hand side, you can see small black clips that we use to clip them on. Now that wire is actually 6 feet high, which just sort of shows that the height that these things reach. Now by the end of the season here, the canes are attached to the top wire of the trellis and need to be tipped off. You can see this picture shows the original horizontal canes and the additional shoots now all trained vertically up on the trellis wires in a more natural growing position. Here you can see this is a picture taken down the row before we start tipping. We really should have tipped these canes earlier, as they've actually managed to top all the way up over that high 6-foot wire and then come all the way 6 feet back down and root themselves in the ground on the other side. Here you can see the canes are now all tipped and they're ready to be folded down for the winter. Here's another picture of the final finished tipped row. So the next several pictures show the process of folding down a row of canes. In this picture you can see the right-hand row is already down and the left-hand row is just being started. The process is pretty simple. You just need to move down the row and lean it forward sort of one position at a time. It's got a couple positions, from vertical all the way down to horizontal. This is the first notch. You can see that the canes are no longer leaning back to the left, but they're up vertically. Here's the same row folded down another notch, the second notch, and it's leaning pretty far. The leftmost row is still in normal growing position as a sort of a comparison or juxtaposition of those two. You can see the original position that the canes were in, and now the second notch down as we fold them down to the ground. Here you can see the entire trellis is now horizontal with the ground. This is going to be the position that these canes are in over the entire winter. Here's a picture back the other direction, and you can see these canes are completely down on the ground. And note the unfolded row to the right. Again, as a comparison, that's what they were at, and this is how far they've been bent over to the ground. Here's a close-up picture of the original horizontal roots. Since the plants and the roots were trained parallel to the ground when they first started growing, they simply rotate as the trellis is folded down and not snap off. If you tried to take a plant that was grown completely horizontally and then bend it over like this, it would snap off, and we actually did have a couple plants snap even though we trained them. So these plants really do need to be grown in this position to be able to be bent down. Finally, we covered all the plants with big frost covers to keep the wind off and the temperature's a little bit higher underneath. It's kind of a big blanket for them. You can see in this picture all the rows are folded down. The trellis support there gets a foam cover to keep the sharp edges from tearing the frost covers, and the orange bags are filled with gravel to hold down all the cloths. In this picture, again, the cloths are on, and we and the plants are now hunkered down for winter. Here you can see the plants on February 14th, 2016. The low temperature overnight was negative 5.4 degrees Fahrenheit here at the farm. So here you can see the final picture in the series. The poor little uncovered bushes in the foreground here, they're a new kind of blackberry we're trying out. These ones bear fruit on first-year canes, meaning that every spring they will grow canes and then bear fruit. They don't need to wait for the second year like the ones behind them. However, we might not have a long enough growing season for them here. That's all the pictures for now. Let's hope for a mild rest of the winter and think positive things about spring.